What is good, YouTube, and welcome back to MKE MANIACI. And today we're going to be reacting to 20 minutes of the worst WWE injuries from the Tap Out Corner YouTube channel, man. You know, in the world of professional wrestling, you know, yes, matches are predetermined. That's obvious. But there's always the risk of injury. And in times, we've seen it, career-ending injuries. You know, these are real athletes. They're real life stunt men and women. So put some respect on the world of professional wrestling. So we're going to check out 20 minutes of the worst injuries in WWE. Let's get it.
WWE might be scripted, but if you think wrestlers don't get seriously hurt, well, keep watching. While getting ready for a shot at the Raw Women's Championship, Rhea Ripley wanted to prove she was worthy of being a champion. What better way to do that than by taking on Nia Jax live on Raw? The two had a good match, but at one point...
That was her first mistake. Don't get in the ring with Nia. I'm sorry.
Then by taking on Nia Jax live on Raw. The two had a good match, but at one point, Ripley accidentally cut Jax near her eye. As the fight continued, the cut became worse and worse until almost half of Nia Jax's face was covered in blood. Luckily, the irresistible force was able to finish the match. However, she ended up losing when Rhea Ripley rolled her up for the 3 count. The SmackDown Women's Championship...
And my bad for coming at Nia like that, because Nia was the one that got hurt that time. My bad, I'm sorry.
She ended up losing when Rhea Ripley rolled her up for the 3 count. The SmackDown Women's Championship match at WrestleMania 37 was phenomenal. Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair destroyed each other and would do anything to win. However, when the Boss tried to mess with Belair's hair, that was going too far.
Then you heard it too!
It was just as painful as it sounds. Immediately, Banks had a mark where Bianca Belair's hair ripped her. Luckily, the match was over shortly after that.
And you know what's crazy though? Like, you know, obviously, you know, they got these plans of what they want to do in the match, but knowing Sasha Banks walking into this match, knowing that she has to take that hit, it's like, how do you brace yourself for that? You know, like, obviously that was one of the big points of that match. How do you brace yourself knowing that you got to go through a table, or knowing you about to get whiplash from a braid? Like,
this next injury wasn't caused by a move at all. In early 2021, the Hurt Business was having some issues with the Lucha House Party. This led to a series of matches against the two teams. One of them was a 3-on-3 tag team match with Matt Riddle teaming up with Lince Dorado and Grand Metalik. While the match started competitive, MVP, Cedric Alexander, and Shelton Benjamin eventually got things under control and isolated Grand Metalik from his tag team partners. One mistake was all it took though, and the Luchador was able to tag in Matt Riddle. Things went from bad to worse. When MVP came running into the ring, his right knee suddenly blew out. It was clear that something was wrong, as MVP had to hop around for the rest of the match. To throw salt into the wound, the Hurt Business ended up losing the match. Luckily, MVP continued to appear on TV, even though he couldn't wrestle.
So that was the injury that he got, of why he still doesn't really compete in the ring. So it stemmed from that? I never even thought about that.
MVP continued to appear on TV, even though he couldn't wrestle. At WrestleMania 37, Sheamus won the United States Championship. One of the Celtic Warriors' first challengers was Humberto Carrillo, and the two would compete in several matches. One of them had a painful ending, however.
Yeah, I remember
Humberto and Sheamus were wrestling like normal when Carrillo went to perform a sunset flip on Sheamus. Unfortunately, Sheamus' entire body fell directly on Humberto's left leg. It looked like the Celtic Warrior let go of the rope a bit too late, causing him to land on his opponent. Humberto Carrillo never got up from the floor, and eventually the referee called off the match. Luckily, the injury wasn't too serious, and Humberto Carrillo was able to wrestle again soon. Unfortunately, another injury would occur. A few weeks after Humberto's injury, Sheamus was wrestling Ricochet. Thanks to some help from Carrillo, Ricochet was able to pin the US champion. This set up a second match between Sheamus and Humberto Carrillo, and this is where things went very wrong. The Luchador punched the Celtic Warrior in the face, but accidentally hit Sheamus on the nose. Within seconds...
Accidentally. You know, we know the terminology, you know, oh, you about to get your receipt, Sheamus.
Sheamus was bleeding. It only got worse as the match continued, and Sheamus began to look like a monster in a slasher movie. On top of that, Sheamus also lost the match. Following the injury, Sheamus would have to undergo surgery and wear a protective mask while his nose healed. After losing the Women's Tag Team Championship at the Royal Rumble, Asuka and Charlotte Flair got a chance to avenge their loss a few weeks later. The Queen and the Empress teamed up to take on the women who had taken their titles, Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler. After fighting for a while, the Empress of Tomorrow got Nia on the mat and locked in the armbar. The Queen of Spades came to her tag team partner's rescue and kicked Asuka in the face. Baszler accidentally hit a bit too hard, and one of Asuka's teeth went out. Of course, this wasn't planned. Because of it, the Empress of Tomorrow had to take a short amount of time off to recover. Before Daniel Bryan was released...
Why is there so many pandemic era injuries, man? Like, this is so many of them, like... Bro.
The Empress of Tomorrow had to take a short amount of time off to recover. Before Daniel Bryan was released from WWE, he had a series of great matches with Cesaro. The two gave it their all, but things did go wrong. During one of their matches on SmackDown, Daniel Bryan hit Cesaro with a huge missile dropkick shortly after the match started. Somehow, the move created a cut on the side of Cesaro's head. At first, it didn't seem too bad, but it quickly got worse and worse. By the end of the match, the cut was looking pretty nasty. Despite the loss of blood, the Swiss Superman managed to win the match. On NXT, Roderick Strong issued an open challenge. Perhaps to Strong's surprise, he got an answer from Russia. Ilya Dragunov took Roderick Strong up on his offer, and the two went at it. Dragunov took Strong to his version of Suplex City, but Ilya accidentally did some damage to himself. Roderick Strong fell on Ilya Dragunov's head, which caused the Russian wrestler to start bleeding between the eyes. It only got worse as the match went on, but the pain was worth it, as Ilya Dragunov won the match.
I'm not gonna lie, blood in a match, call me old school. I know we rarely see it unless it's accidental, but like, it's something about it, it just adds to the intensity of the match, and that could just be like the sadistic side of me. I don't know.
The cut was so bad, however, that Dragunov needed stitches afterward. Be prepared to cringe in 3, 2... During a 6-woman tag team match on Raw, Becky Lynch started messing with her opponent, Bianca Belair's hair. As you just saw, it didn't work out well for Becky. Moments after the hair whip, a huge red mark formed on Lynch's stomach. It didn't put Becky Lynch out of action, but that had to hurt.
Yeah.
The next time Becky and Bianca would face off in the ring was at WrestleMania 38. Unfortunately, someone suffered a nasty injury during this match too. At one point, it looked like Becky was trying to perform a vertical senton. Something was off, and the only thing that connected was Becky Lynch's boot with Bianca Belair's face. Despite the painful accident, Belair continued the match and ended up winning the Raw Women's Championship. It looked like Bianca was fine, but the next night on Raw, we saw just how extensive Belair's injury was.
She had a shiner.
Her left eye looked terrible, but despite that, Bianca Belair was still in good spirits. Hopefully this doesn't mean that 2022 is cursed, but the very first WWE match of the year had someone getting injured. Cesaro and Ricochet were facing off against Sheamus and Ridge Holland during the Day 1 kickoff show. Only about a minute into the match, and Cesaro flipped Ricochet onto Ridge Holland. Unfortunately, Ricochet's boot landed on Holland's face. Ridge soon tagged out and wasn't seen for the rest of the match. We learned later that the botched move broke Ridge Holland's nose. Thankfully, it wasn't too serious, and Ridge Holland was wrestling again soon. But in a scary coincidence, Ridge would later botch a move that could have ended someone's career.
I don't want to see this.
Sheamus, Ridge Holland was in a match with Kofi Kingston.
I don't want to see this.
Holland and Big E were fighting on the outside, leading to Ridge hitting E with an overhead belly-to-belly suplex. Big E didn't get high enough, causing his head to land on the floor.
And it's like, and I felt so bad for Big E on this, man. And I'm not going to lie, I was kind of mad at Ridge Holland, too, because, when you do these moves, it takes both of y'all to make sure it's executed. So I couldn't really, put all the blame on Ridge. And I can only imagine, how bad Ridge Holland felt about it after the fact. You're a newer guy. You injured somebody that's so beloved like Big E. Now you're going to have people that's not going to really want to work with you. You're going to have a bad stigma around your name. This situation all around, Big E, he still hasn't returned from this. I'm hoping he does, though. But, he got lucky. This injury it got lucky. There was, this isn't the first time that a near paralyzation happened. I mean, a paralyzation has happened in the WWE before, but I believe it wasn't televised, when it happened. But as far as this case, man, they said Big E was near. He could have died on this, so yeah, that was brutal.
It was incredibly scary to see, and the accident caused Big E to break his neck. After getting medical attention, it was thankfully discovered that Big E's spinal cord wasn't injured and he would not need surgery. However, as of right now, E has not wrestled since that match. Drew McIntyre began 2022 by feuding with Happy Corbin and Madcap Moss. Their rivalry went on for a few months and included a match at Elimination Chamber. At the event, McIntyre took on Moss in a Falls Count Anywhere match. Even though they could fight anywhere, the most painful moment of the match actually happened in the ring.
Yeah.
The match had only been going on for a few minutes when Drew McIntyre planned Madcap Moss with an Alabama slam. Something went wrong because Madcap landed head first on the mat. The most shocking part is that Madcap Moss walked it off and continued the match like the whole thing didn't happen. In his WrestleMania debut, Rick Boogs had the huge honor of being part of the opening match. Boogs teamed up with Shinsuke Nakamura to challenge the SmackDown Tag Team Champions, the Usos. Shinsuke started the match, but after a bit of fighting, tagged out with Rick Boogs. Rick was running wild, but his rampage came to an abrupt stop when his knee suddenly gave out when he lifted both Usos on his back. Rick Boogs quickly tagged out with Nakamura. It turned out that Boogs tore his quadricep and hasn't been in action since the injury.
I mean, and of course, now he's returned, but man, that was, talk about bad luck. A lot of guys never even get a WrestleMania match at all. Nonetheless, even TV time at WrestleMania, and you get injured in the first match of the night and get taken out. I mean, and now here we are. Year later, Rick Boogs is not going to have a match at WrestleMania. It's pretty obvious. This was probably going to be his best chance to ever have that, and he got injured. Almost, I believe this happened almost in the beginning of the match. I don't know.
It turned out that Boogs tore his quadricep and hasn't been in action since the injury. In February 2022, Randy Orton and Matt Riddle found themselves in a tag team match against the Street Profits on Raw. The match was going smoothly until the finish. Montez Ford performed his signature frog splash on Orton, but Ford's position was off and he landed on Randy's shoulder. The Viper was clearly in pain after the botched move, but thankfully it wasn't anything serious. On SmackDown, Natalya took on Shayna Baszler in a one-on-one match, but Ronda Rousey was in Baszler's corner. Baszler didn't need any help though, as she's able to beat her opponent on her own. After the match though, Rousey told Shayna the job wasn't finished yet, leading to the Queen of Spades nailing Natalya with a knee to the face. The move actually did connect though, and Natalya's nose was broken and bleeding. Unfortunately, the accident actually dislocated Natalya's nose, and it required her to undergo surgery. SummerSlam 2022 kicked off with Becky Lynch challenging Bianca Belair for the Raw Women's Championship, which was a rematch from WrestleMania 38, which was a rematch from the previous year's SummerSlam. However, only about 3 minutes into it, Becky fell on her right shoulder. The landing caused Lynch's shoulder to pop out of its socket, and it was clear Becky was in pain as she kept checking on it throughout the match. The injury became more and more visible as the match progressed, but Lynch didn't let it stop her, and she got the job done. In November 2022,
and that's why Becky Lynch is the man,
match progressed, but Lynch didn't let it stop her, and she got the job done. In November 2022, R-Truth wrestled his first match on NXT since 2011, but it turned out to be a bad decision. During the match, Truth performed a somersault to his opponent on the outside. Truth clipped the top rope though and didn't jump far enough, causing him to crash hard onto the floor. The former 24/7 champion grabbed his left leg, and the referee soon called off the match, and R-Truth was helped backstage. It was later found out that the accident tore Truth's quad, and he needed to undergo surgery. One of the defining images of 2022 was Cody Rhodes' gruesome torn pectoral muscle. But how did he actually get injured? On the Raw before Cody's Hell in a Cell match with Seth Rollins, Rhodes and Rollins got into a brawl. During the fight, Cody tore his right pectoral tendon. That was bad enough, but a few days later, while weight training, Rhodes tore the tendon completely off the bone. That's why the injury looked so bad when fans saw it at Hell in a Cell. Additionally, the reason WWE allowed Cody Rhodes to wrestle was that he couldn't do any more damage. Nevertheless, the injury sidelined Cody Rhodes for the rest of the year. This injury was...
But that still had to hurt though. I mean, even though you can't do any more damage to it, it's still gonna hurt like hell, and shout out to Cody Rhodes for being a trooper with that, man, because Hell in a Cell, This match was really the only selling point of that event. I'm not even gonna lie.
Damage. Nevertheless, the injury sidelined Cody Rhodes for the rest of the year. This injury was pretty unique. On Raw in June 2022, Alexa Bliss, Liv Morgan, Rhea Ripley, and Doudrop fought in a fatal four-way match. The winner got to face Bianca Belair at Money in the Bank for the Raw Women's Championship. At one point in the match, Morgan gave Bliss a kick to the gut, which caused Alexa to DDT Ripley. What actually hurt Rhea, though, was her own knee. Ripley's boot got caught on the rope, which caused her face to collapse.
Oh my God.
Until Rhea Ripley shared a picture of the damage the accident caused to her mouth. On top of that, the injury also gave Ripley a concussion. Thankfully, after about a month on the sidelines, Rhea was back in action.
And that match, that actually took, because I think Rhea won that, and she was supposed to face Bianca. That match, I don't think it ever happened. That's why I thought when Rhea won the Rumble, we were going to get Rhea versus Bianca at WrestleMania. You know, long-term storytelling, it finally happens. But, oh man, I didn't know that that's what did it.
Gave Ripley a concussion. Thankfully, after about a month on the sidelines, Rhea was back in action. Not all WWE injuries happened on TV. During a triple threat match at a non-televised WWE show, Carmella, Asuka, and Bianca Belair all faced off for the Raw Women's title. As the match was starting to come to the end, Carmella tried to pull a fast one on Belair by attacking her from behind. Bianca got out of harm's way with a backflip, but Carmella immediately crumbled to the mat and went outside of the ring. It appears their timing was off, and Belair's tailbone smacked Carmella's head. An image was later shared on social media showing exactly the damage the botch move did to Mella. Whenever weapons get involved, it's very easy for a wrestler to get hurt, and we witnessed this on SmackDown in August 2022. In the lead up to his match against Roman Reigns at Clash at the Castle, McIntyre took on Honoré Uce, Sami Zayn.
Hey, I went to the SmackDown.
Won the match, but he didn't end the night on a high note. Roman and the Usos came in and attacked the Scottish Warrior.
Yeah, I went to the
They battered
SmackDown.
McIntyre with chairs and threw his body all around the ringside area. You could already see marks forming on Drew's body, but up-close pictures taken backstage showed just how much damage the beatdown did to McIntyre.
But you know the crazy thing is, because I went to this SmackDown, they taped two shows because they were doing Clash at the Castle. So this was the first show that they taped that night. You know, Bloodline assault to McIntyre. It ended, and then the next episode, the next week, which was, you know, within the next hour after this, you know, it was supposed to be Roman's celebration. McIntyre came out like it was nothing, you know. But, you know, that's the thing, though, man. Like, whole time, body all marked up, but he's still, you know, you got to do double duty at night. You know, got to do what you got to do, man. That's why, you know, you got to have a lot of respect for these men and women, what they do, man, because only imagine how much that could have burned that whole night, knowing that you got to do a whole nother show after.
Drew's body all around the ringside area. You could already see marks forming on Drew's body, but up-close pictures taken backstage showed just how much damage the beatdown did to McIntyre. You know an injury is bad when the match is immediately stopped and the referee throws up the X sign. Unfortunately, that's what happened in the main event of NXT UK in February 2022. Blair Davenport and Meiko Satomura fought in a Japanese street fight. Despite the match type, the injury was not caused by any weapon. Davenport jumped from the top turnbuckle and hit Satomura with a stomp to the back. Blair landed awkwardly on her left foot and began shouting in pain. Within seconds, the referee called for the bell and gave the X sign, signaling that this injury was real. The landing hurt Blair's left ankle, but thankfully, after being out of action for about 4 months, Blair was able to return to the ring. Ladder matches are some of those brutal matches WWE puts on each year, and the 2022 Women's Money in the Bank was no exception. One of the participants was Shotzi, who had a rough night. She had a few mistakes during the match, but the worst was when she went for a senton. Shotzi performed the move from the top rope, but ended up hitting the ladder below. It appears her back and or head got clipped by the ladder on the way down.
That was her head.
In any case, the move did bust Shotzi open, as evident by the blood on her face. In 2009, Jeff Hardy and Edge faced off in a ladder match with the World Heavyweight Championship on the line. It was an awesome fight, but unfortunately, it wasn't without issues. Hardy and Edge had been wrestling for a while and ended up on a ladder that was outside of the ring.
I love this match.
The structure tipped over, and both men went crashing through a second ladder. Unfortunately, the charismatic Enigma overshot it and ended up landing on the floor. The fall injured Jeff Hardy's shoulder, but he was able to continue the match.
And you know what's crazy about this match in particular? This was one of the matches, because I used to buy all the wrestling DVDs, and I would play them in the basement, and I would like recreate, I would like literally reenact these matches with like a huge stuffed animal. So I would be, you know, jumping off of things, going through things, man. You know, when they said don't try this at home, I was trying it at home. And this was definitely one of the matches that I emulated, man. Definitely.
Landing on the floor. The fall injured Jeff Hardy's shoulder, but he
I be
wasn't
using hot sauce as blood. Like it used to be. Yeah, I was wilding.
able to continue the match. Say what you will about Brock Lesnar, the guy can hurt you for real.
Yeah.
After a long absence from WWE, Lesnar made his in-ring return at the 2012 Extreme Rules.
Cena.
His opponent was John Cena, and in less than 30 seconds,
Busted open.
Brock had busted Cena's head wide open. It was so bad that the match had to be stopped temporarily. Lesnar was so reckless during the match, he ended up hurting himself too. Later on, the Beast dove at John Cena and ended up flipping out of the ring and onto the floor. Brock looked like he hurt his knee, but both wrestlers were able to keep fighting and finish the match. This next injury shows how dangerous wrestling can be, even if you aren't involved in the match. The 2011 Extreme Rules was a big moment. After Edge vacated the World Heavyweight Championship, Christian and Alberto Del Rio fought to become the new champion. It looked like Captain Charisma was about to grab the title until Del Rio's bodyguard, Brodus Clay, ran in.
Yeah.
Christian managed to get the better of Brodus and throw a ladder into his face. Unfortunately, the weapon busted open Brodus Clay's head. Luckily it wasn't too serious, and Clay was ready to get back to work very soon. Even dead man bleeds. In 2019, The Undertaker made a rare appearance at Extreme Rules, teaming up with Roman Reigns to take on Shane McMahon and Drew McIntyre. The tag team match was nothing short of chaos.
One of the matches that you just kind of forget about, you know, like, yeah, it kind of just crosses your mind, like McIntyre and Shane McMahon against Roman Reigns and Undertaker at Extreme Rules. You know, it's just one of the things that just happened.
To take on Shane McMahon and Drew McIntyre. The tag team match was nothing short of chaos, and it only got worse when Elias ran in and smashed a guitar into Undertaker's back. Unfortunately, splinters from the wooden guitar got stuck in Undertaker's skin. It was made clear that something went wrong as blood began to pour from the Phenom's back. Thankfully, it wasn't anything the dead man couldn't handle, and he got the last laugh when he tombstone piledrived Shane McMahon and won the match. The 2004 Royal Rumble was going pretty smoothly until the final 10 minutes. The remaining 5 wrestlers formed an alliance to try and eliminate the Big Show. They threw everything they had, but this only angered the Giant. Show eventually fought back and used his monstrous strength to catapult John Cena over the top rope. The future 16-time world champion bent his knee awkwardly when he landed, and it resulted
that was one of the clips that was on the old WWE the videos, the old WWE DVDs. Well, don't try this at home. It's Cena, like literally, bro. And I remember this.
The future 16-time world champion bent his knee awkwardly when he landed, and it resulted in him tearing his MCL. Even though he had to wear a knee brace for a while and was temporarily limited with what he could do in the ring,
a great storyline.
Cena continued to compete, even appearing on SmackDown only 5 days after his injury. I guess that's why he's called
2 days.
The Champ. The 2008 Royal Rumble was kind of a big deal. It was held in Madison Square Garden. Michael Buffer was the guest announcer. It was the first WWE pay-per-view in HD, and Shawn Michaels and Undertaker were the first 2 entrants. Everything was fine, until the 4th participant, Hardcore Holly, got into the ring. Michaels was lying on the mat, so Holly decided to assault him with a few stomps. Pretty normal wrestling stuff. But one of those boots landed straight on HBK's face. After laying low for a short while, the showstopper got back into the action. At first it didn't look so bad, but that changed pretty quickly as blood began to pour from Shawn Michaels' nose. Even with this, Michaels continued wrestling for roughly half an hour before being eliminated, all with a bloody and probably broken nose.
Yeah.
It's interesting looking back at CM Punk's final days in WWE.
Man, what happened to Hardcore Holly? Like, I remember he was there and then he just wasn't there anymore. What happened to Hardcore Holly?
Now that we have insight into what was going on, when the Voice of the Voiceless entered the 2014 Royal Rumble, he was upset with things backstage and was also suffering from a staph infection, so before the bell even run, Punk was not in the best place. This is made even worse when the number 8 entrant, Kofi Kingston, got into the ring. In signature fashion, Kofi got started by hitting a clothesline, and while it may have looked normal, CM Punk later revealed that he actually got a concussion from it.
What?
To make matters worse, Punk wrestled for another 40 minutes before being eliminated, and also received a chokeslam from Kane through one of the announcers' tables. I can't speak for the man, but I'm guessing he isn't too fond of this night. While all these injuries were unfortunate, this one may be the saddest. Having made his WWE debut 7 months earlier, the 2003 Royal Rumble was going to be Chris Nowinski's first appearance at the event. He entered very early at the number 3 position, and wisely decided to stay on the outside for a while. Eventually, when the moment was right, he slid into the ring and began getting his hands dirty. As the match continued, Rey Mysterio and Edge went to double team Nowinski and got on opposite turnbuckles to hit dueling missile dropkicks. However, their timing was off, and Edge ended up landing on the Harvard graduate's head. Instantly, you can tell Chris Nowinski was in pain, and thankfully, he was eliminated not long after.
Yeah.
He would still wrestle for a little while after this, but ongoing post-concussion symptoms ultimately led him to retire.
Yeah.
After his
Chris Nowinski, I think right now he's actually, I don't know if he's working with some concussion team that he's working with though, but yeah, his career was definitely a pretty short career, man.
Rivalry with Bret, Stone Cold began feuding with another member of the Hart family, Owen. After squaring off in tag team matches, the two finally went one-on-one at the 1997 SummerSlam. The matchup should have been a classic, but it's most well known for one moment. After competing for about 15 minutes,
that pile
Owen
driver,
performed a pile driver, and it was
right on the
immediately
neck.
clear that something was wrong. The impact caused Stone Cold to break his neck and suffered temporary paralysis. Owen Hart began taunting the crowd to buy the Texas Rattlesnake.
That move is what really cut Stone Cold's career short. From that particular move. If that never happened, Stone Cold probably would have at least wrestled full time until like 2010, honestly.
And after a minute, that likely felt like an hour, Steve Austin managed to roll up Hart for the win. Thankfully, Stone Cold recovered and went on to become the legend we know today. The 2016 SummerSlam was historic. The Universal Championship was unveiled, and Seth Rollins and Finn Balor got to square off to see who would become the first man to ever hold the title. The match started off alright, but within the first 3 minutes, disaster struck. Seth Rollins pulled Balor to the outside and sent the Demon King flying into the ringside barricade. The impact was so hard that it caused Finn Balor's shoulder to be dislocated, but despite the injury, the Irishman continued to wrestle for another 16 minutes. While Finn did become the inaugural Universal Champion, he unfortunately had to relinquish it the next night in order to undergo shoulder surgery. The Prince returned the following year, but sadly hasn't won a single world title since then. As part of Mabel's infamous main event push in 1995, the King of the Ring winner challenged the WWE Champion Diesel to a match at SummerSlam. The contest itself wasn't great, but was made even worse.
Was anything in 1995 in WWE great? No.
To a match at SummerSlam. The contest itself wasn't great, but was made even worse when King Mabel jumped onto Diesel. The force caused the champion to injure his lower back, and Diesel, or Kevin Nash, would later say he wasn't able to feel his legs. After laying on the mat for a while, the two men were able to get back on their feet and finish the match. According to Nash, after the show was over, WWE was ready to fire Mabel. However, despite being upset, Kevin Nash spoke up and prevented that from happening.
And it's crazy because at that time, WWE was in such dire need of like a huge star. Mabel, Viscera, Big Daddy V, whatever you want to call him, he was one of their big stars, but Kevin Nash, Kevin Nash was that guy. And I mean, Vince being Vince, yeah, he would probably want to get rid of his ass after that.
Despite being upset, Kevin Nash spoke up and prevented that from happening. In the midst of their love triangle storyline involving Stephanie McMahon, Triple H and Kurt Angle faced off in a triple threat match at SummerSlam, which also included The Rock. The feud was so intense that the game and the Olympic gold medalists began brawling before the Great One had even made his entrance. The fight eventually made its way to the outside, where Triple H decided to hit Angle with a pedigree on the Spanish announcer's table.
This was also on that DVD clip. Bam!
The gave way before the move was executed, and this caused Kurt to slam his head onto the floor. The Olympian ended up suffering a concussion and was taken to the back. Kurt Angle did return later in the match and would later credit Stephanie McMahon and Triple H for helping him get through it. Unfortunately, the following SummerSlam in 2001 wasn't injury-free either, and ironically, this one involved Stephanie McMahon too. As part of the Invasion storyline, Rhino and Chris Jericho squared off after Y2J insulted the, quote, owner of ECW, Stephanie. During their SummerSlam match, Rhino countered a top rope dive from Jericho with a Gore. The impact caused Jericho's head to snap back and collide with the arena floor. It doesn't seem like it was too serious, but the Ayatollah of Rock and Rolla did appear to be a bit dazed and even botched a couple of moves. Luckily for Y2J, he's able to lock in the walls of Jericho and pick up the win.
One other injury that I feel like is very prominent in history, of course, Joey Mercury, Armageddon 2006. Oh my God. But yeah, y'all let me know what y'all think about this, man. 20 minutes of the worst WWE injuries. Link down below in the description, man. Y'all new to the channel, want daily reaction content to wrestling videos, man, hit that subscribe button for me. And until the next video, I'll see y'all then. Thank you for watching MKE Maniaci. I'm out.